Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now, let the stories begin. Oh, everybody, you know, I get so excited, and I know all of the listeners around the world, I get literally overwhelmed with joy when I think about the amazing people and human beings that I get to shine a spotlight on and celebrate. And today I will tell you the gift, the honor, and the privilege of sharing this guest with all of you, and just the honor of having him with me right now is blowing my mind. But I've never had a guest, and here's what is so important for me to start this off with, is that many of you know that I've truly stood by my mantra, coming clean with some dark stories of my past and some of the trials, but I've always said in my heart, I choose not to live in woe is me. I choose to live in wow is me. And yet, it is amazing when you meet someone that you go, wow, you are truly living the woe is me in ways that I can't even fathom. So for all of you around the world, thank you for all the amazing comments, all the stories you share because of the stories that you heard that changed your life. And this today, may I have the honor and privilege of introducing you to my new friend out of Colorado, Michael Kutcher. Michael, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Holly. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know all the story, right? Like, I'm like, okay, I don't even want to know everything because I just want to be just as surprised with your amazing, you're choosing not to survive life. You're choosing to thrive, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I don't think does anyone really have any other choice? You know, we were talking before we started this show about, you know, you either have the ability to stand up and be productive through life, or you can sit around and feel a victim. And I don't think that everyone has that choice. But, you know, I myself choose to take the path of success and get everything that I can out of life. And I've been fortunate enough to been given a few chances at life. And I just feel blessed at that, and I'm just going to make the most of it.
And that is why, my friend, you are so special. And when I love how you just said a few chances at life. No, your chances at life are truly miraculous in so many ways that old saying, 9 lives. Like, right? Like you just being alive is a miracle based on everything you have faced over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it initially started at birth.
Okay, so
right?
should we start there? I want to take us through the journey, but let me brag on you for a minute. So here's the cool thing, is that you're about to hear this journey of this life that's going to impact yours and everyone out there. But what's amazing is that this journey that he's going to take us on has really culminated to a time and place that I know you'll share with us, that you finally said, what am I doing? I need to get out there and share with the world. So you are now speaking all over the world. You are sharing your story. You've gotten real, you've been humble, and you've been gracious to do this. So I just wanted to brag on you for a moment. So take us back. Shall we go to birth? Let's just start at birth. How's that?
I guess, that's where it all starts, right?
Yep.
Yep. And, you know, when I speak to people, you know, I often ask them one question before I begin. And that question is, and it'll circle back to what you're speaking about, the gift of giving back to others, is I ask them one question. And the question is, does anyone in this room, right? Does anyone listening know what their purpose in life is? And it's a very profound question. And very few people know what their purpose in life is. But, you know, as you've somewhat laid out, I've been given the opportunity, the multiple lives, to the fact that I feel that I've found that gift. You know, and I feel fortunate enough to have found that reason, or my purpose in life. And, you know, I think to your your comment, it does start back at birth. I mean, the funny story around this is that my parents didn't even know that they were going to have twins.
Seriously, your mother
when
did not know there was two babies in there.
She had no idea. It was 1978, and the sonogram was not developed yet, and the only way that they could do any type of investigating is via X-ray. And I was so small that my brother kind of covered me up, I guess.
Well, he was kind of big, wasn't he? He was really.
He wasn't too bad. He was I think he was like 9.5, 10 pounds. But very healthy baby though when he was delivered. And I was demanded to be in the world at that time, about 5 minutes later. And, I came to the world very, very sick. I was, born at about 4 pounds. I later dropped to 3 pounds, to the point that, that they didn't know that I would survive 15, 20 minutes, let alone, days or weeks ahead.
Yeah.
So, that was my first battle. That was my first, even though, I'm not very aware of it. It was my first stance against, survival. And I chose to survive. And, I would go home a month later, once I gained some weight. But within that, there was some difficulties in my development. And I ended up being diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which you may know is the leading motor disability function for children.
And how old were you, Michael, when that diagnosis came?
I was about 3 years old.
Okay. And I mean, for people that don't know a lot about that disease, is that something you're born with? Is it something that we develop over time? Can you just educate us a little bit on that?
It's actually rather interesting. I've done some advocating for cerebral palsy and with, working on with the NIH and CDC with it. And we actually don't know the cause. One in every, I think it's up to like 283 children are born with it. And we don't even know what causes it yet. I believe there's multiple causes. The one that they feel that I was, my reasoning for developing it was I was so premature at birth that I was given oxygen at birth. And they feel that at that time it was difficult to regulate the amount of oxygen for babies.
Oh.
For newborns. Yeah. And they feel that maybe they gave me too much that affected the nerve cells in the brain. So they feel that's the way that I developed it. Other children I know have developed it just from maybe a birth extraction. They could damage the brain in that way. But there are different severities and various causes. I'm fortunate to have, a very mild case of cerebral palsy.
Which was a blessing, right? But it was, again, you go from not even knowing you were in the womb, right? You were battling for your life and you were determined to be here. Then now this. Okay, so keep taking us down this journey, right? Wow.
So, I mean, it goes on and I'm basically going through that portion and then, growing up with cerebral palsy, it was just very difficult. I was diagnosed at 3, but, I'm growing up with my siblings. I have, my twin brother. I also have an older sister who's 3 years older. And really, the difference is in how I was developing and versus how they were in the quote unquote average or normal childhood. And it was really kind of prevalent in the stages of elementary school and middle school, and people often say that the the most harmful place for children can be the playground.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that.
Did something happen to you then, or was it how kids were behaving and acting?
I mean, a lot of things happened, but in terms of how kids were acting and behaving, just I think I've been called every name in the book, and they say that words can't hurt you, but I strongly disagree.
I do too.
I do. It's when you're faced with those words of retard and four eyes and cripple and those different words, those things, even though you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, those things dig deep and they leave scars for the rest of your life. And there was a difference for me though when I was growing up, and that was having a twin brother.
Was he good to you? Was he protective of you on the playground?
My brother was my protector.
Oh.
He did everything for me in terms of, with my difficulties of my motor skills and ability to do some things. He pushed me. My brother always excelled more than I did, whether it be academically, sports, or anything else. But I grew up in the era of Michael Jordan, right? So where it was always like, be like Mike and shoot the ball like Mike.
Yes.
And all I ever wanted to do was be like Chris.
Oh.
And achieve the great things that he could do. And to this day, I tell him, he's my hero.
Oh,
I look up to him. And there was a time when we were young where he we went through we had an issue to where he taught me a valuable lesson that no matter your difficulties or no matter your obstacles, because we all have them, we all have challenges in the world.
Yes.
And people can help you with those challenges, but no one can do it for you. I mean, people can guide you and support you, but at the end of the day, you're the only one that can overcome that. And if you think about, different things that people going through their life, I think it rings true, I kind of I learned that message at a very young age, about 10 years old, from my twin. And, it carried with me and still carries with me today in every obstacle that I have. And,
was this the story on the basketball court?
Yes.
Will you please tell everybody this story? I just read it briefly and I was like, oh, this is profound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my brother and I were, 8, 10 years old, and we're playing basketball at our house in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And we were playing the game horse. You're probably familiar with how to play the game.
Yes. Yeah.
Being, maybe it's a Midwest game. I don't know.
I think it is.
But we're playing basketball, and I was losing. I was down my final shot, and he took the ball, and he went underneath the hoop, and he had he was facing away from the hoop. And he took the ball in his right hand, and he called out, he said, right-handed backboard shot. So he threw the ball up, it hit the backboard and went in the basket. And then he gave me the ball. And one thing that you have to know is with my cerebral palsy, I'm limited with some of the movement on my right side. So it was a difficult shot for me, and I knew it was a difficult shot. And therefore, I decided to do it with my left hand. And I made the shot. That didn't satisfy him. And he accused me of cheating.
Ew, I don't like him. No, I'm just kidding.
And I either did I at that time, right? So I sat down and I pouted and I played the victim card. And at that moment, he said to me, he says, he's like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you going to do?" He says, "Mom can't come out and make that shot for you. I can't make that shot for you." And he for a 10-year-old, he sure did lecture me pretty well. And he instilled in me that I'm the only one that can make that shot. And, I tried, I missed it. I lost the game. But I tell people I wasn't the one that lost that day. I won.
And what wisdom from your kindred twin spirit brother that knew that moment changed your life.
Yeah. I mean, it did. It carried me through every single obstacle I've ever had. And playing basketball and surviving at, infancy and going through cerebral palsy was the least of my worries.
I mean,
with what I was faced with during my teenage years.
Which is where we're going to go now. And I have goosebumps as I'm listening to that story because, it was such a visual of picturing you, the two of you sitting out there and just having this. It was a really sacred moment that little did you realize how much that would change the rest of your life and how you view things. And so take us to, you were in your, 12, 13? I don't know exactly how old.
Yeah, I'm 13 years old and I'm in 8th grade, and it was, roughly around Thanksgiving. And I just got sick. I mean, I wasn't feeling well. I thought I had the flu, very flu-like symptoms. And, we were relatively poor back then. And when my mom was kind of old school, it's like, "Oh, you're sick. It's viral. Let it run its course. I'm not paying $25 copayment."
It's the Midwest moms, right? We were raised by them. Yes.
Yeah. And so I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't see a doctor for, maybe 3 or 4 days. Then it got worse and it got worse. But like the 4th or, 5th day, I went and saw a physician and was told that A, I was severely dehydrated, and B, that my heart was enlarged. And, they often say that your heart is about the size of your fist. Mine was 4 times the size of my normal heart. And they didn't know why. So, I saw a cardiologist. And long story short, I was diagnosed with a viral myocarditis, attack of the heart or inflammation of the heart. And I was sentenced to 3 to 4 weeks to live.
3 to 4 weeks? 3 to 4 weeks, not months. We're talking weeks, right?
Weeks. Unless I received a heart transplant.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I didn't know this part. 3 to 4 weeks you are given.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So there was another miracle that was about to happen.
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah. And, I was 13 years old. I didn't know what to think, what to imagine. I think my first my first question to the cardiologist was, how long do I get to be out of school? You know,
Such a kid.
I didn't really understand the calamity of it, you know, the severity of it and what was going on. I tell you, about 3 to 4 weeks later, I think I started to understand it, to where I, for reasons of them thinking that they could, assist me, I was not put on any type of transplant list. I was told that I didn't need a transplant. So someone contradicted the first clinical diagnosis.
Seriously?
And lo and behold, 3 to 4 weeks later, cardiac arrest. So that, once again, I'm put into a situation of survival and a situation of, no one else can do this for me. And I'm the only one that can fight and can survive. I mean, there were definitely people praying and they can help me and pray for me.
Yes.
But I'm in control of this situation.
Did you know, Michael, when you were, so during those 3 to 4 weeks, could you feel or sense, they say, when you're younger, children have such intuitive thoughts and things. We know things, right? Mm-hmm. Could you feel that was about to happen? Did you have a sense that this was going to happen? What was happening for you outside of what the doctors and your mom and your brother and sister and everybody were saying? What was happening inside of you?
In terms of when I went into cardiac arrest?
Yeah, right before that. Yes, right before that.
Right before that, I was watching an Iowa Hawkeye basketball game, lying on a bed with my mother, eating popcorn.
Really?
And I would say probably an hour later, I was in cardiac arrest.
Did you ever have the feeling, though, that you were did you ever feel like you were going to go to heaven? Like, did you ever have that, like, I think the end is here? Or did you never feel that? Because then you didn't even know you're out, right? Because then the next miracle is you get a heart. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's probably another podcast, Holly.
Okay, good. We're going to hang on to that one, right? Oh, my goodness.
But yeah, long story short, it was definitely a miracle. My heart arrived, as just the understanding you may know of transplant issues and the shortage of, some people wait, weeks, some people wait months, some people wait years, because it has to be the right match, right? The right body size, the right tissue type, the right blood type. It just has to be a match. And from the time that I went ill, that clock of 3 to 4 weeks actually shrunk to 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
And, to that point to where I was, placed number 1 on the national list of needing a transplant. And I often joke that it's, one of the first times I've ever been number 1 nationally in my life.
I love that. Michael, see your attitude? It's the attitude of positivity. This is you. Positive. I love that about you. Yes.
I'm alive today. I mean, what's not to be positive about that? And God willing, we received the call within 24 hours. Which is, simply a miracle. And I understand the miraculous work done there by people up above, because that just doesn't happen.
Right. You were supposed to be here for so many reasons.
I have a purpose, right?
Let's talk about that.
That's
your thing.
That's kind of my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so take us to, I mean, we both agreed. And by the way, everybody, when Michael and I were talking before we even started, we're like, I think we're going to turn this into like a series of a couple episodes. Because he's like, there's just a lot, Holly. And I'm like, I love that. But I want to be respectful of you and what you want to share. But, you know, this has a lot to do with what you're doing now and your purpose. Will you just take us to a moment that was pivotal for you when you said it's time for me to start sharing and talking about this? When did that happen for you?
That happened about 10 years ago. You know, how do I boil this down? My diagnosis for cerebral palsy and growing up with cerebral palsy was, it's been a struggle of mine my whole life. Although I have a very mild form of it, it's still visible to me, right? And unfortunately, I typecasted myself. And I often looked at myself as a victim. Mm-hmm. And even though everything I've gone through in my life, there was still that lack of some kind of appreciation, you know, and I struggled with that. It was an inner demon struggle. You know, I have glasses, I wear a hearing aid, I have a small speech impediment, I'm smaller framed, just, you know, what's society gonna say and think of me if they knew that I actually had a disability? And you know, the way I was raised was all three children are inclusive, and we never used the word disability in my family growing up. Michael was just like Chris and Tasha, and it, you know, everyone was treated equally. But when you get out into the real world, you realize that that's not the case.
Yeah.
And I have a mild form of it, so I have the ability to somewhat mask it if I choose, where people don't even notice it. If you saw me on the street, Holly, you probably wouldn't even know I have disability, let alone say, oh, you have cerebral palsy. So I masked it for years. And it was that societal thought of, you know, what's my employer going to say? What's my friends going to say? What's, you know, everyone going to say? And are they going to treat me differently or give me special treatment? And I'm still a single guy trying to find a wife. And how is that going to work? And I struggled till I was about 30 years old. And when I say that I could mask it, it was okay to the normal people walking on the streets. But then something happened to where, you know, as Holly, as you know, my brother is, you know, Ashton Kutcher, a famous individual that I'm sure everyone knows. And the funny thing is when you're in a celebrity family that things start to kind of come to light and people start to want to know more about their brother and want to know more about their sister. And they learn, you know, that Ashton's brother has a disability. So in a way, I guess I was kind of outed. You know,
kind of outed. I like the way you said that. That's kind of outed.
Without not wanting to be.
Yeah.
But it's the best thing, one of the best things that ever happened in my life. Because it made me realize who I truly am. Now, I'll speed up here, and you asked, you know, where do I get to my purpose? I was asked to speak at a gala for cerebral palsy in Iowa. And I looked at the individual who asked me to speak, and I you know, I denied her and I said, no, I said, I don't want to speak. And, that's okay. I'd rather not put any more attention on myself than I need to. Once again, those societal views, right?
Yep. So you bowed away from that.
I bowed away from it.
Still in the mask, right? Still thinking you can keep it masked, even though you'd been a little outed. I love that word, outed, right. Michael.
still undercover.
Yeah.
And then she introduced me on our next visit to her daughter. And her daughter was 5 years old at the time, and she, the same age as my son at that time. And she had a more severe case of cerebral palsy. And, something hit me during that visit. And I went home and looked in my mirror, and I just felt ashamed of myself. Of, how could I deny myself having this disability and this obstacle when there's someone out there that's happier with less than you have? Mm. And this little bundle of joy was amazing. I mean, this girl, she couldn't vocalize her words. She had to use a walker. She, at the time had to use diapers at school. But she was happy and smiling and joyful and amazing. So how dare I feel the way I do about the same disability? And then something clicked, and I just said, this is what I need to do. And this little girl doesn't have a voice. And this little girl needs a voice. And people with disabilities need a voice.
Yes. And
I also struggled with, what do you do with this celebrity kind of exposure? And you're not, how can you turn that and be a voice and be good and do good? And that's one thing that my brother has always shown me too, is to give back to others, and you receive more for yourself if you give.
It's so true.
So that was a pivotal moment where I just said, I'm done living in a mask, and now's the time to give. And that was the very first speech I did, and that was about 7 years ago. Oh. And from that, I realized the entire story that I had. And my purpose is multifolded. One is to be an advocate for those with disabilities and children with cerebral palsy. And the other thing is to tell my story, and to we were speaking earlier about, if I speak in front of 4,000 people or 200 or 10 people, I only need to touch one.
Yes.
And making people realize that, the victim card isn't one to play, and that you can be successful no matter your obstacles or your challenges, Mm-hmm. And there's one thing that little girl taught me. It's that, deep inside we're all the same people,
Yeah.
And she had the greatest ability. She may have a disability, which I hate that word, to be honest with you. I'm trying to find another one. But she had the greatest ability of all, and that was to inspire me. And I am inspired. I'm fired up. I'm do as much as I can to get my message out there and talk with people about overcoming obstacles and achieving greatness. And there's always more to be done. and giving back to your community or something you're passionate about, and spreading love. And I could go on for days.
I know. And I have to tell you, you had me, I don't have any Kleenexes in my office studio right now. And I'm just sitting here listening to you. And I just have to tell you, I think, oh my gosh, listen, this is what you do, right? You bring people to a place of such a beautiful gift. You have inspired me because you have given me the gift of realizing it's the sign that you have in your house, right? That someone happier than you has less than you. Mm-hmm. And oh my goodness, sorry, I'm trying to pull myself together. You are truly a living angel on assignment, but you are an angel on assignment. You do get that, right? You're supposed to be here for a reason, and your purpose, you are living it. And that little girl, if it wasn't for that little girl, I don't know if we'd have the gift of what you're doing now, Michael.
Yeah. And I've had many angels in my life. And there's so much more to talk about here, Holly. And this wasn't meant to make you cry.
It's tears of joy. It's tears of joy because I believe that I choose joy, right? We have life is a choice. And I know people go through their crap, right? We all have had those dark times, but it's what do we do with it? And when somebody like you can say, right, like I'm here to live and I'm not here to survive. I'm here to thrive. And I'm going to make my purpose about helping to share that around the world. And you're doing it. And you have a 12-year-old son, right? You have, yeah. And another gift you've been given. And I can only imagine the joy of what he's getting to experience being raised with such grace and such, power of positivity that you have. You mentioned something about a book. Are you doing a book? Is there a book done? What's going on with that?
It's a great question. Is it a book that you'd like to read?
I want the book, darn it.
And as I tell my message and I tell my story, I don't want people to think that I'm the almighty be all and that I don't make mistakes and I don't have regrets and things that I myself need to still work on because God knows I do. And this book is one thing. I've been thinking about writing my story probably for over 5 to 7 years now. And I've come some way with it. But as of recently, I finally put a stake in the ground and made some commitments and told myself that this is something that your story is one that needs to be told. And so I'm on another journey of mine to write my story. So coming to a bookstore near you.
Okay, so let me tell you what's about to happen. I'm going to be your accountability partner because I'm big on making commitments to ourselves. And when you verbalize that, it's one thing that you came to terms with it for yourself and it took 5 to 7 years, right? Yeah. And you've claimed it now, but you just made yourself so far more accountable. And the commitment that this will get done is just been raised like a zillion because you now not only told me, you have now shared this with so many people that will be listening. And there is magic. I always say the brain is so powerful, but there's magic in what can happen when we take those different layers of commitment, right? To go from thinking to writing to then verbalizing. And I want to be your friend to help you when you're having a day of, I'm really questioning this. I mean, I want to help support you and lift you up to get this done because there's so many different ways to communicate the story. Right? This is one way on stage through shows like this, also for the people that read, right? So it's all these different ways that you can share it. And by the way, we'll give you you can take this recording and you can use this towards the content for your book. Instead of having to rewrite stuff, you can take it and transcribe it.
That'd be great.
So see, double whammy. We got to win.
There we go.
I love it. All right. So I have a favor to ask you because I know I kind of we're going to wrap this up and I'm going to ask you, you've been giving us so much wisdom and just wonderful nuggets. I would love for you and I to do a next episode. And I would love to know, you had no, I just want people to know you had no idea I was going to ask you this.
No idea.
Yeah. What would that next episode, what would you love that to be about? Because you keep saying, oh, there's so much more. What would you and Holly commit to doing that we could share on the next episode?
Wow. I mean, we could go in several directions here. My story, when I speak to people, it's multifaceted messages. The kind of, when I talk about only hitting one individual in the crowd, it resonates on different levels with different people that are needing different things. And one of the favorite things I do is I speak to the youth. And I don't know how many youth audience members you have. But this is what you do, Holly, is amazing. And I think that more youth need to hear positive messages like this, because there's so much crap in the world, as you said. Use the word, so I feel I can use it too.
Please, yes. You could throw anything you want out there, Mike.
So one message I speak to the youth about is being yourself and finding the identity of who you are and appreciating who you are. I can tell various stories of growing up with my brother and how I didn't know who Michael was. It was always kind of, there's Mike and Chris. And then it become, there's, Ashton's brother. And it's really important for people to look inside themselves and find out who they really are. And that's one thing that I think is important that we could share.
I would love that, because I believe that today more than ever, our society, and I feel sick inside when I think about this younger generation and what they're being exposed to. And some of this is just where technology has gone, right? The kids that are being bullied through social media. I mean, it's just teenage suicide is at an all-time high because of how delicate and precious their souls are and how easy it is to pull them down. And yet it could be so easy to start lifting each other up. And it starts with what you just said. It's knowing who you are and feeling comfortable in your skin and knowing that you were put here with gifts. I always believe every human being, Mike, no matter how old we are, no matter where we live in the world, we're human beings and God put us here for a reason. It's what do we do with our lives? It's our gift back.
Absolutely.
And I would love to do another segment and talk more about that and really help bring some light to that. And you probably, it's so interesting that we've been connected. I love our connection, and we have to give a dear shout out to our mutual friend, Natalie Phillips, who connected us.
Yes.
Right. She knew. She sent me a note going, oh, Holly, you've got to have Michael on your show. Oh man, he's amazing. And now I can see why. And please give your parents, your sister, your brother, all the kudos and love, because a lot of who you are is because you did have that, I guess, somewhat of a sanctuary of being loved by your siblings and by your family, right? To know that you're a good human being.
Absolutely. I mean, my dad always, he's very philosophical, and he always reaches out to his kids and says, I couldn't be prouder of all three of you, and you're such beautiful people, and the children that you have, and the amazing things that you all are doing for others in the world. And I always tell him, well, Pops, started with you, what you instilled in us is who we are today. And that's why I, talk to my son about giving back to others. And I'm that example for him, and he sees his uncle doing it as well. And you made the comment that children in this world are lost, and in some way they are. But just like our parents taught us, we have to teach them and raise them. And yes, we live in a whole different world today with social media and with iPads and iPhones and video games, and believe me, my son has all of it. But
yep, I bet he does.
But it's how we raise our youth, and the morals and the values that we instill in them. And I feel like we're getting to our next episode.
I know. Oh, it's going to go.
Stop.
I know. No. I know. And it's like, okay, we're going to capture this and we're going to get everybody ready for the next one. So you and I will regroup and we'll figure out when we're going to do that. But I want to celebrate something about you too before we wrap this up. And that is, if I heard you correctly before we started, you are getting ready. Is it 26-year celebration with your heart?
Yes. So last year was my 25th anniversary post heart transplant. And you know how I celebrated?
How?
I ran a half marathon in Las Vegas.
You did not.
I did.
Seriously?
Did. It was the second that I ran one here in Denver in October, and then in November I ran the half marathon down the Las Vegas Strip. Just all in honor of my donor.
And you know who your donor is? Were you able to find that out over the years?
That might be another podcast.
Okay, there we go. Oh, you know what, Mike? I think what we need to do is we need to start making notes. We're going to end up having like 3 or 4 podcasts now at the rate we're going.
Hey, we could. We very well could.
All right, I think that's going to happen. And I just had to wrap that up. And I always ask my guests something at the end as we wrap it up. And it's so interesting because I don't even know. You've given us so much wisdom, but I always like to end with, if you could go back and give your younger self, 20, 24-year-old self advice, Michael, based on who you are today and what you know today, what advice would you give that young man?
24 years old. That's tough. That's really tough given the life I've lived.
I know. I was even questioning whether I was going to ask you. And I'm like, no, I have to ask you because I'm dying to know.
Can I give you the answer on the next podcast?
I was just going to, you know what's funny? I was just going to say, do you want to give me that as the opening for our next round?
that's most people I think would say, the appreciation for life and, love everyone a little bit more. And boy, I learned those lessons when I was 13 years old.
Yes, you did. So you know what? And you did share that. That's why it feels so like, you've already given us.
It's a very tough question.
Okay. So you get the time to think about it. We will commit that that's how we will open and start the next episode. Okay. And in the meantime, I have to tell you, I don't know if anybody's told you this. You have an amazing radio voice. Have you thought about having your own show?
I have not.
Well, my friend, I might be kicking you in the behind to start thinking about this.
Right.
Well, you know what? We could really lean into this. Is where you could really ask your brother for some favors and go, okay, I've now been told I should have a show. So where do we start?
I think I could do it on my own.
Yeah. But I mean, you have a great voice. Yeah. So, how would you like, so I know this is going to happen. People will hear this. I can't wait to release this and launch it, and I'll let you know what day that's going to happen. But I always love for the opportunity for my listeners to reach out to the guest if you so choose, and that's okay with you, if they have questions or want to know more. So what's the best way for people to reach out to you, Michael?
Yeah, I have a contact section under my website. And it's pretty simple. It's just michaelkutcher.com. It's where you can, view my story in its entirety, some clips of me presenting, and also look at some of the work that I've done with advocating for cerebral palsy. And, I can't fail to mention organ donation as well, of course. And so you can view all that content, and also, I'm not what I would say censored. So all of the messages come directly to me. And you can also, view a Facebook page, Twitter handle on there as well, and send me messages on all all those mediums. And, I love speaking to people that feel that I've touched their lives. Mm. And when I spoke, I said, there's that one person that you need to hit. And as long as you've done that, you've done your job. And I've had so many people reach out to me and express to me how I've opened their eyes to the world and to life. And, that's what keeps me doing what I do. Mm-hmm. And driving me. Mm-hmm. So I guess my message to your audience is, if you've received something from this, let me know.
Please. And leave us a message. Celebration of You is on iTunes. It's on SoundCloud. It's on YouTube. Leave a message on iTunes. Send us messages we want to hear and Michael wants to hear. And it's so interesting, when Michael and I first connected, there's something that you've been saying, Michael, that I was waiting till the end to tell you. And this is where you stole my heart from the beginning, is that I go all over the world and I always feel blessed to be a messenger of things that I'm very passionate about. But I will literally pray before I go on stage, big group or small group. And here's the uncanny part, as I always say, if one person in this room can be impacted and changed and be given hope and light, then that's why I was here. And that's my prayer and wish. So I have to tell you, I love you. I know that sounds weird coming over the phone line and but this is how I am. And I'm a hugger. And so I'm giving you a virtual hug and thanking you for being in my life. And actually, I'm topping this off with saying, thank you for giving us the inspiration and reminder that life is a gift. That's what you do.
Well, thank you for allowing me to share it.
Oh, until next time, everybody, because we know what we'll be starting with, right? All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly, though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.